Good evening, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to our session on mainstream choreography. Probably nothing new and earth-shaking will develop in mainstream choreography tonight from this session, but we hope possibly that we might trigger some brainstorms on ideas on how to present mainstream choreography. My name is Dale McClary. I'm from Melbourne, Florida, and my other panelist is Mr. Jack O'Leary from Connecticut, and his young bride is in the area somewhere here. The purpose of this meeting is to look at choreographic sequences of how we put mainstream together. A couple of words on our mainstream program first. This is a personal opinion, nothing original. Our mainstream program is the lifeblood and foundation of our beloved square dance world. Without it, we cannot survive. I don't believe that we can go straight into plus and leave out the basics. I don't think anybody in the mainstream program, I don't think anyone thinks we can. This is evident that we are in trouble in our mainstream program in a lot of areas around the country by our declining classes, clubs folding in some areas. The question is, what can we do to stop this decline? Can mainstream choreography be enhanced to provide more enjoyment in our mainstream dances, which will increase attendance at dances? I personally think it can, with a strong effort on callers and dance leaders working close in harmony to do this. I've heard it said for many years, and I heard it said again today. Dancers get bored doing right and left through and star through and die through and pass through and star through. I'm sure they probably do. I don't know why we must call repeated sequences such as that one after the other. Who gets bored first, the dancers or the callers? Think about that for a little bit. Ways we can avoid boredom for callers and dancers: by working as hard on our mainstream choreography as we do on plus and beyond, in our selection of music, which has a very large part to do with any choreography. As far as I'm concerned, without the music, your choreography is not very good. By ensuring the changes of places and faces in the square, as is done from one way I like to refer to it as box to line and line to box. Okay, and one way that I think dancers don't really realize, and they're not really analyzing, if, for instance, you do equivalent to a square through, any way you want to, or the basic square through, 4 hands around. And at this point, I think we all agree we're in what is commonly known as a box 1-4. We can do a series of any moves that we choose through an enormous amount of sequences and change places and faces all over the place. Come back to that formation where you have the heads in the box 1-4 position. At this point, you could call an Allman lift, or you could do several moves to move people around. For instance, star through, pass through, and bend the line and star through, or equivalent thereof. That inverts people in places. And I maintain, and I really believe, that they don't notice, hey, I was just in this position, I was just in that position. And I really believe that you can get a lot of variety in that. I personally work with 4 lines in all 4 boxes. In all note services that I have read, and in most magazines, I see 2 items: the box 1-4 and the line 1P, 2P. I maintain that you can use these from all 4 of the ladies. You have the partner, the corner, the opposite, and the right-hand lady. You could call all night by inverting and setting up different ladies with different men. And the dancers will not get bored, or at least I don't find that problem. And that's basically how I put mainstream together. I also will use, from an ocean wave, a single hinge in the new center's trade. That's commonly a quarter through on the A1 program. I maintain this is mainstream dancing. From the completed double pass-through position, I have lead dancers cloverleaf, the others partner tag. That's a horseshoe turn. I don't say horseshoe turn. But I maintain that our advanced programs today can almost, a large percentage of them can be called directional, with all sorts of variety, if you take time to work and do this. These are a few thoughts of my own belief on what mainstream choreography should be. Is a change in the places and faces in the square, and we don't have to have 3-in-1 lines. We don't have to have ever conceivable, possible formation you can think of in the mainstream program. Once again, these are just a few of my beliefs, and I would like very much a little later to hear yours and some ideas that you have. That's what the session is about tonight. We won't come up with any resolutions, and as I said, we probably will not come up with any earth-shaking new ideas. I'd like to see it become a working session tonight with the people that's here and hear from you. But I honestly believe, from what I've read throughout the year and various magazines and note services, and having the honor of serving as vice chairman of the ad hoc committee, I have read enormous amount of mail. I say, a large part say, let's have a new program, entry program, change the list, move the basics, put some of the plus on the basics. I maintain it took CALLERLAB 7, 8, or 9 years to establish the mainstream program we have at the moment. I personally see nothing wrong with it myself. I believe the problem is, and when I say this, I mean everyone who picks up a mic and says, I'm a square dance caller. I mean, that all callers are basically not working. And I'm sure that there's someone sitting out there that say, I do. But we're not working as hard as we could or should to provide interesting dancing at the mainstream program. I relate a lot to my own area. I live in Florida, as I said. That's different, I've been told, from other parts of the country. I have not called all over the nation, but in talking to a lot of callers, I think collectively they all agree that across the country, the mainstream program and dance classes, beginners, are down. I think we can change this by working at our mainstream choreo sessions. Yes.
Check 1, 2, check, check, check.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Okay, we will get into that very shortly. But I hope that you will feel free to jump right into the program here in a few moments after Jack does a session on music that he would like to talk to you about. If you disagree with anything I say, I'm a very peace-loving man. I don't fight, so speak right up, and we'd like to hear from you, too, a little later. At this time, I'd like to bring up Mr. Jack O'Leary, who will talk to you about music. Jack?
Can I sit? You can sit, stand. I'd prefer to sit. Is that all right with everybody? Okay. Thank you, Joe. Welcome, everybody, again. As we said initially, we're not going to sit here or stand here and lecture. We feel that the greatest benefit of a program like this is for the exchange of ideas. I'm sure we have people from all over the country, or at least different parts of the country. Do we have anybody here from the rural areas? Whereabouts? Oh, okay. All right, but you would consider that... Yeah, okay. Just for my own benefit. Let me give you a little background on myself. I'm from New England. And New England has an unusual situation. Maybe it's not, but we feel it is. Our mainstream level is not a true mainstream as you would look at the CALLERLAB list and say that's a mainstream dance. We have a gray area, and I don't know how it started, but it's there, and so we've had to work around it. For example, there are some of the plus calls that are used in New England at what is called a mainstream program. They have infiltrated the program. I'm thinking of things like Load the Boat. It's not untypical or atypical to go to a Saturday night dance in New England, and which is advertised as mainstream, and hear Load the Boat, and have a success ratio on the floor with Load the Boat. Somebody told me once when I came in to call, they said, this is a mainstream dance plus Relay the Deucey. And so I couldn't call anything else on the plus list, but I could call Relay the Deucey. So it's a little different than, and I'd like to hear what it's like from some of the other areas. In some of the talks that I've had with some of you already informally this week, I find that mainstream, defined mainstream, is alive and well out there in most parts of the country, and that maybe New England is a little unusual. I'm finding that more and more. So we'll get into that too, and I'd like you to respond to that. We don't have a mic out there, I believe. This session is being taped, so if maybe we'll repeat your question for the folks. Is that sure? Or you can come right up here and grab the mic yourself. Let me throw out a question to the group on singing calls. How many of you would buy a singing call and use the figure that's written on it exclusively? Okay. Most of you change the figures if you like the music? Okay. That always was my method. I didn't really care what the call choreography written was. If I liked the music, I'd buy that, and I'd put my own figure to it at whatever level I was calling. But I've found that some callers have trouble doing that, and I just wondered how big of a problem that was. I would hope that you would buy a record for the quality of the music and put your figure to it. And maybe we can talk about that also. How many here sight call? Oh, that's good. Okay. What are some of the other methods that you all use? Imagery? Memorization, zeros and equivalents? Okay. All right. Okay, good. We talked about variety, or we heard about variety this morning in some of the sessions, and that leads us right into the mainstream program. 25 years ago, we didn't have lists. We just had square dancing. And we as callers had to put together a enjoyable program. And we did it. We want to use the list to enhance that still today. The list is a guide for us to use. And not only in the pattern calling, but also in the singing calls. There are several examples. Dale mentioned a few ways to get around calls that may be on somebody else's list somewhere that you can directionally get people through. That's all right. There's nothing that says you can't say from an ocean wave, end circulate centers trade, and instead of calling AC Deucey or whatever you want to call it. So there's a lot of little tricks like that. The dancers don't know. We know. Anything to make it more interesting. I'd like to address any questions that you might have at this point. Anything that you'd like to ask of us. Anything that's on your mind. This is your seminar. Don't all rush. There must be some questions out there. Yes? Would you come up and use the mic, please?
This session is being taped. We'd like to have everyone use the mic so we get it on the tape. All right? Thank you.
Thanks. The question is, when you are, like I notice here, that most of the fellows, they do their own figure to the singing calls. When you're using a singing call at a workshop, do you put whatever you have workshopped into a singing call at that time? I know myself, I do. And I find the dancers are more liable to accept that, what I've taught, than if I have just workshopped it and then did some relaxer singing call after that. George Switt from Red Cliff, Alberta, Canada.
Fine, thank you. Years ago, and it's still prevalent today, I call that a security blanket. Especially many years ago, if a new figure was out and I was going to use it in a singing call, there was no way that I was going to not call that figure in the patter record, because that just wasn't done many years ago. I could listen to a caller and tell what his singing call figure was going to be. And I don't know there's anything wrong with that. That's ensuring dancer success, which is also very important.
Yeah, absolutely. It reinforces what you've done, and using it in a singing call it gives it some credibility, and yeah, I do that all the time. Anybody else have any questions for us?
If no one has a question, I'd like to ask you one, if I might. How many of you in the hall have successful mainstream programs? And I mean by mainstream, basic number 1 through number 68 at home. Okay? Now, first of all, I'm very glad to hear that. I have another question. How many was at Birmingham last year for the National in June? Did you make a point of visiting the mainstream hall at several different times by chance? I went by there several times, specifically to see if I could get a feel for the attendance and the dancing in the mainstream hall. And I was either there at the wrong time or something, because the plus hall adjacent to it was absolutely busting at the seams. The mainstream hall always had ample room in it. I wonder why that is. Yes. Could you come?
I'm Les Leach from Baltimore area. You're speaking of the mainstream hall not being as crowded as the plus hall. Every time I went by the mainstream hall, it was not near as crowded, but 95% of them were dancing. And when I went by the plus hall, it was crowded, but only 50% were dancing.
You're right. You're 100% right, and that's also what I observed. But I guess really my question is why? How has this been created? What has caused this? Is this a problem? What can we do to correct it? I agree with you. The dancing I saw in the mainstream hall, and I did call one tip in there myself, was very good.
Virgil Forbes from Baltimore and Washington, D.C. I didn't make Birmingham, but I was in Memphis, Seattle, and here in Baltimore 2 years ago. And my impression, having talked to people in the mainstream hall, because I am a mainstream caller, is that very few of the people who enjoy just straight recreational dancing are willing to travel a long way. They don't have the time and energy invested if they're just mainstream dancers. The people who put out the money and time to go ahead and dance plus and advanced are also the ones who travel. And I think we're looking here at a non-problem. Nationals, I don't think, are really a good indication of whether mainstream is alive and well. I would refer to this spring, just a month ago, the Washington Area Square Dance Festival down in D.C., where the mainstream halls were packed every time I looked in on them. And I went to an hour of plus, where I think there were a total of 9+ sequences called in an hour, and everything else was mainstream. And the floor was having a ball. And these were not local callers. These were the big national guys. That's where the fun was. Even on the plus hall, there wasn't a lot of plus. It was all just mainstream with an occasional plus. So I find it alive and well.
I'm very happy to hear that. Maybe I'm, like I said a while ago, in the state of Florida, from Melbourne, Florida, 100 miles in any direction except due east. I don't go that way. I call for 7 clubs, and all of them are absolutely plus except one, and they're driving me crazy to get it into the plus. And these plus dancers, an awful lot of advanced people come. If you don't do that star tip after the dance is over, they don't come back. If I don't have something new to workshop. when I say new, I'll correct that. I got Bill Burleson's book and lots of others, and I literally just open a page and pick something out. I quit doing it. I went from 18 squares way down to nothing flat. I'm not the only one in this ballpark, but maybe we don't have, and that's kind of off of our subject, but I want to get the feel. And the feel I've got here at the National Convention, and I've talked to a lot of people, that mainstream is alive and well. So maybe it's just the state of Florida where it's not alive and well. We'd be glad to take questions on this or anything that you want to talk about. I would still like for some young gentleman or lady to come up and tell us how they put their mainstream choreo together and how they present it, what we can do to improve it. I'm sure that we can all learn from someone. Talking of systems of calling a while ago, I heard image, mental image, sight, and I use a system of logic choreo. As I said a while ago, I work primarily, I have my gimmicks like all, but I work 4 lines, 4 boxes. Everything that's printed, I can do it 4 times, and more than that. And I got reams of material. I personally am as I said, a logic. I use a little sight. I hope it works. I pray it does. I do lots of things, anything I can think of, to make those people have fun. We're looking for ways that we can improve. I believe we can do it. I believe I have done it myself, and I know many more people who have by work at the mainstream in the basic program. Use them from various different setups, not challenged, because they can be made challenged right quick. So anyone else have any questions or anything you'd like to say on that or talk about? Come and join us.
My name's Bob Barry from Alexandria, Virginia. I wanted to make a point about the mainstream in the D.C. metropolitan area. I find that one of the big problems, we have pressure. I've seen this in my square dances over the years. I have good loyalty, but at the same time I'm watching the pressure build. I'm watching the pressure to go up into that plus area. And I have 5 couples that basically the way it started, we had one couple join the club who had danced some mainstream and had touched on plus, but they weren't dancing plus that much. So they joined the club, but they were the type of people that wanted to move up. They had to be challenged. And so what they did, rather than go into plus by themselves, they tried to get a couple other couples from the club to join and go into one of these workshops. And I encourage it if they're ready. And, of course, they all come back to me and they say, am I ready? I didn't feel they were ready, but at the same time, they had their minds made up that they wanted to go out and try it. And the reason for this, I felt, was because there was pressure. There weren't that many mainstream clubs, and in the Washington area, most of the benefit dances are not mainstream. Most of the benefit dances, the cancer dances, and the other dances that occur during the year are at a plus level. Not a strong plus level, but they're enough plus that these people felt that they only had a few clubs to dance with. And so they wanted to get out and dance with these other clubs. And this one couple or a couple couples getting together were enough catalysts to get them moving. And I even saw where in certain of the groups, the woman was a little better dancer. One couple in particular, the woman was a good, aggressive dancer, and she was picking it up. The husband was not with her. He didn't hear the calls. He did wear a hearing aid, but that wasn't totally. He just was not giving it his full attention, and he wasn't as aggressive as his wife. But I saw this one couple draw 5 couples out of the club, not that they left me, but they got into plus. And I saw 2 or 3 of the couples that they had got very frustrated because they just weren't ready. And even though I said you should wait a year, they still had that pressure because they wanted to go out and dance at these other clubs. They also wanted to go out and dance at these benefit dances. And since they were not at the mainstream level, they felt that this gave them the opportunity to go to more dancing. So the only way we're going to whip this loss of people and the frustration is to have some of these callers get together and start forming either benefit dances or group dances at the mainstream level and advertise them that way. Now, most people tell me at the mainstream, we wish you luck, because you won't make it as a mainstream club. So far, we've been in existence 4 years, and we're slowly growing. Not that great, but we're still growing and hanging in there. And I think that eventually it will prove if we give enough variety at the mainstream level and groups of callers get together and maybe start some of these benefit dances and other dances at the mainstream level, or at least have them split where they know that this is a mainstream tip, they can get up and dance it. I think that maybe we'll keep these people at the lower level and stop this peer pressure to draw them out. Thank you.
Okay, why don't we've got sound equipment here now, and what we thought we might do is actually get a square up and take a look at some different ways to do things. We get back to the word variety, and that's what we're all about here. And we can share a few things. Maybe you have something that you can that works well for you in the mainstream program, and you could share that with us. Could we get a square? We have 4 ladies, don't we? I think. Sure. I know my wife will dance with somebody if it's... Oh, that's all right. You can take them off, Davis. Yeah, you can pull those back. And, because we want to do it right up in this area. How many start out, bow to your partner, bow to your corner, all join hands, circle to the left? Every tip. Yeah. How about walk around your left hand, lady, seesaw your partner? Not bad. Okay. How about some other things? Bow to your partner, bow to the corner, lady in center, back to back, men promenade the outside. Sure, girl, you can clap your hands. Do a do paso, turn up on the left, turn a corner by the right. Partner left, Alamandar, the men swing in. Men turn back, promenade your partner. Yeah, okay. So does anybody have something that they use to start off the tip, or other than join hands, circle left, that works for them? 1 and 3, go right and left through.
2 and 4 go right and left through. Then 1 and 3 go right and left back. And 2 and 4 star through, pass through, and left element.
Okay, Dale's count.
All 8 to the middle, and you come right back. 4 ladies fold. Star through. Then you promenade, go around the ring. Back home you go.
Sides face. All pass straight through. All 8 do a U-turn back. All 8 star through. Left alley man. Promenade.
Short. Okay, so those are some ways to get started. Here's one that I've used, and I suppose you could call it a gimmick. Let's have walk around your left hand, lady. Men, star by the left. You expect the seesaw, but it's not there. Do a do-sa-do with your partner. Okay. So the idea is not to trick them, but to just throw something a little bit different that they're not expecting. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay.
4 men, star by the left-hand star, around you go, turn it. Now men back by the right, a right-hand star in the middle of the ring. Pick up the partner with an arm around and star promenade the wrong way around. And the ladies roll back an Alaman left with your left hand, promenade in a sandy land. not really necessary for us to start off bow to the partner, corner two, every time we dance. Okay. That's true. That's very true. Or lead to the right and circle up 4. A lead to the right and swing through. A lead to the right and do a right and left through. Yes.
Are you going to call?
No, I'm Jack's wife, Kathy. I want to say, as a dancer, I do like the bow to the partner, bow to the corner at the beginning of each tip, because it reinforces for me who my partner and who my corner are. And also as a dancer, I've been after Jack an awful lot lately to get swing back into dance. I can't tell you how many singing calls there are that you don't swing all the way through a tip. And I, as a dancer, like to swing. So I'd like to see that back used a lot more.
Yep. Don, you're a swinger anyway.
Keeping that in mind, could I do one more little sequence? Have the head two couples do a right and left through. Star through. Pass through. Do a do side do the outside two. Same ladies swing. All join hands, circle to the left and around to go. Do an Alaman left and Alaman dar. Go forward two. Men swing in, make a back of a star. Walk right in. Now slip the clutch. Alaman left. Promenade somebody home. What I'm really happy to see there, I'm really happy to see something that I just saw. Okay? What I wanted to see what would happen. It's the first time that I've seen that movement, do-side-do, dance correctly in a long, long time. The only way that I get it, and I probably shouldn't do it, but I call it do-side-do and touch a quarter and a quarter more, which is kind of back-breaking. I wonder... Yes.
Sure.
I'm Don Littlefield from Fargo, North Dakota. And, by the way, Jack and Kathy lived in Minot, and we got acquainted with them years and years ago. Nice to see them again. But we were at a session last night, and they were talking about this arm around do-sa-do, and they're also talking about styling. And they said that the styling, when the ladies do the do-sa-do, they got a hold of their skirts with both hands. If we would teach the people the proper styling, we wouldn't have a problem with that arm around do-sa-do, because the girls would have their arms busy, wouldn't they? Of course, then you're going to end up with a guy that's putting his arm and he's going to hit the girl in the stomach, if that happens. Yeah, right.
Very well. Very good point.
How about this? Heads, go forward, face your corner. Do a do-sa-do. Make a wave. Swing through. And the girls circulate. Boys trade. Do a right and left grand. Promenade. Sometimes it's neat to find those things that can get you into a grand right and left without an Alaman left preceding. There's more. Does somebody have anything? Done. No, not at all. But not just every tip, every dance.
I'm just saying that I don't see a lot wrong with doing an Alaman left and a right and left grand. Maybe not every time, but it gives the weaker dancers a chance to get themselves oriented and to get started in the right direction. And the same with a do-sa-do or lines up and back or whatever. It gives that weak dancer a chance to figure out where he's supposed to be and to get oriented. And I do it a lot. Maybe I do it too much, but I think they need to get oriented and to give themselves just a little bit of time to get going.
Good point. The thing that we just did, that little ocean wave swing through girls circulate, boys trade. You can do that anytime you have box 1-4. If you notice that, it'll work instead of doing an Allemande left first.
Yeah, Rich Cal, New Jersey. Another way to get in a line or a box, okay? Now the head gents and the corner girl walk into the middle and back. Same 4, square through, 4 hands. Split the outside 2, go around just 1. Over there, around there, around that side, on the other side. Close, no cigar. But anyway, you got a line from that way. Okay, square up again. Now here's a box, okay? Square up again. You had to split them and go around 1, okay? Now couple number 1. Couple 1. Go down the center. Split couple 3. Separate, go around 3 dancers. 3 dancers. Hook on to the end, you got lines of 3. Now lines of 3, go forward and back. Star through. Center square through, 3 hands. Must have been something wrong here. Do you turn back? Okay. It's corner, right? Corner. Touch to away. Touch to away. Spin chain through. Boys working. Girls circulate 2 spots. Comes your partner, do the right and left grand.
Did somebody else have one they wanted to do? Something they wanted to share? Oh, I thought I saw somebody get up. Yeah. For who? It can be a crutch, but where I've used that is when I see the majority of my floor stumbling a little bit, and rather than keep going, that up to the middle and back gives them a chance. Maybe they don't do it because they're trying to get themselves resolved, but I hear what you're saying. It can be overused.
Have the head couples parallel. That's step up and face your corner.
Yeah, that's A1. He must be from New England.
Okay, now do a swing through. Spin chain through, and the men circulate to go twice. Swing through. Centers run. Couples circulate. Bend it. Stop right here for a minute. You wasn't following along, but I know that I have a 1-0-2-0 line. Okay, you've danced along, all right? And maybe we've done several other sequences of whatever, and I still have this 1-0-2-0 line. Pass through, do a wheel and deal. Center swing through. Now turn through and straight ahead and do a do-side-o and around to go. Now swing through. Spin chain through, and the men circulate to go twice. Swing through. All 8 fold. Everybody slide through and roll. Grand right and left. Meet your girl and promenade. Okay, all I'd done there actually was take the box 1-4. And I know, and it's memory, and I maintain that sight calling is one heck of a lot of memory also. It is memory. I knew what I was going to do. But I can take any one of the ladies and alternate back and forth and move. I can have every man dance with every lady and never call. I don't have to call the same stuff. I was doing it for simplicity there. There is an awful lot of mainstream dancing there, and I maintain to you that the dancer out there dancing with the music roaring and the caller projecting enthusiasm, etc., they'll never say, "Oh, gee, I just done a spin chain through." They don't see it. They might see star through, dive through, pass through, right and left through, star through, if you over and over and over. But I maintain if you shift the ladies right or left and move them around and put the number 1 and 3 couple across and sides across, they don't know. I maintain if everything's rolling smooth that they don't know, he's calling the same thing here. I just don't think they know. And That's my philosophy. If anybody strongly disagrees with that, I'd love to hear you challenge me on it and come up with your idea. And I'm serious about this. I don't know it all by long ways. I've been studying it 21 years, and I wonder if anybody else has something they could do on this order to show us what you can do by moving people around.
Well, I'll do one. Don Williams from Mason, Michigan.
Tell us your name. Where are you from?
I just did.
You did. All righty. You ready for the music?
Let me talk. Let me demonstrate what happens here. Now, I want to shift the ladies or the men. Let's have the ladies chain 3/4, please. So we know that everybody's got their corners. Okay, let's put them in line. So our heads touch quarter. Walk and dodge. Touch quarter. Walk and dodge. Partner trade. Should have the same lady. Should all have corners, okay? Now, it says, if you star through, do that, please. Dive through. Star through. Right and left through. Everybody has their own partners. Girls the other way. Okay, this is just a fun little thing I do. Head step forward and face your corner. Star through. Pass through. Partner trade. Touch a quarter. The dancers don't know that their partner's behind them. The boys in their corners ahead of them. It happens fast, they don't know what's going on. So I say all circulate 14 times, go. They're staggering around, what's going on? They're counting them. Okay, all face in, join hands. You got a static square. It happens so quick they don't know what happened. Right. Okay, but I don't let them go 14 times. Let's circle to her home. That's the quickest way. Organized. This is unwritten, but something I like to play with. So have the head star through. California twirl. Split 2, go round 1. Straight ahead, boxinette. Pass through, tag the line all the way down and face in. All star through. Centers only, zoom. At this point you can yellow rock or an element left. Surprise. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. George Varney, Middletown, Pennsylvania. I'm just going to talk. I just want to make a couple of comments. One, I have to admit that my area is a lot like New England in the fact that we don't really have a mainstream program. What we have is mainstream with selected plus moves integrated into the program, and it's pretty standard. We expected a call to that particular situation. But I think probably what caused this is when we do have mainstream dances, we don't utilize the mainstream list. We cut it short. We don't use all the figures or all the moves that we got in the mainstream, and we don't call them enough to make it a good, wholesome mainstream dance. In other words, we'll leave out a lot of moves. We'll come back the following week. We'll leave out the same moves. And as a result, the dancers get weak in certain things. They say, well, the dancers have trouble doing fan the top. The dancers have trouble doing peel-offs. They have trouble doing this. The reason is, I think, that when we do call a mainstream dance, all these people graduated, we're not calling those moves in the dance itself. And I think if we are consistent in calling a full mainstream list as much as possible in each dance and try to remember what we omitted one week and try to get it in the next week, that we would make our mainstream dancers stronger. We'd give them a lot more material to work with. And I think that's probably part of our fault. And I think that's why that people who come to us and say we have to use plus in our program is probably because we're not utilizing the entire mainstream list like we should. It's my personal opinion. The mainstream list is pretty good as it is. Took a long time. But of course, it's time-tested, and there are probably areas where it can be improved. No doubt about this. This is going to happen as we progress, and I'm sure there's a few things I'd like to see taken out and a few things added. My personal opinion, and I should bet you that there'd be 50 different opinions right here in this room. But I think that part of our problem is not utilizing mainstream lists like it should be used.
This square, if you'd like to rest, you may sit down. We thank you very much.
Yeah, I'd just like to kind of reiterate what he said about not using it. about 24 years ago, I went to a Callers 5-day session with Ed Gilmore. I don't know if any of you remember Ed Gilmore or not. But Ed said back 24 years ago, if dancers get bored with mainstream, the callers are not doing their job. And I think that's absolutely right today, too.
You notice a lot of people, they get bored with leave to the right and circle up 4. In fact, it's so automatically, they're circled halfway around before they realize you didn't call a do-si-do or touch a quarter. So it helps a lot to catch them flat-footed, doing things that they know that you're going to call. Don't do it. Call something different. Allemande left, come back, instead of a hip bump and a high five, call a curlicue and boys run. That'll wake them up a little bit. I'm Les Leach, still from Baltimore.
Thanks. That's a good point. I opened up a dance and called an entire tip with no Allemande lefts in it. Just got creative. Did a lot of other things. Then I asked the group, did you notice anything different about that? Then I told them, no Allemande lefts. Oh, yeah, that's right. There wasn't any. There's other things you can do. How many use... Dale made a comment about partner tag. Do you all use partner tag? Okay. Again, as sophisticated as we think we are in New England, I can call partner tag on a so-called plus floor, and it will give people trouble. I think it's a super little call, and you can use it in all different kinds of positions.
How about partner hinge?
Yeah.
Another term I use a lot, or I hear it said a lot, and I'm as guilty as the next. I use it a lot also. But when I get to using a move, I tape myself at least once a week on a program. I call mainstream through the A2, mostly plus. 90% of what I do is all plus with star tips after the dance. But the term swing through in a boys run or the centers run and bend a line. Swing through, I'm talking from a box. Swing through, centers run, couples circulate, partner hinge and scoot back, and the boys run. That's bend a line. That's one way I got myself to using it. The gentleman a while ago, I believe, I don't know who it was, said fan the top, peel the top. That's very true. You're absolutely right. If you call fan the top on an open floor in Tampa, Florida, or Orlando, or Daytona Beach, or Melbourne, you might standard, but if you've got any sort of a position, you'll never touch that. And we're not using it. That's very true. That's very true. And I'll tell you another one that's dying quick is cross trail through. I force myself. I try to force myself to call the basic list, but it's pretty tough to do in one evening's dance if you're calling a plus dance to call all 68 basics, all the quarterlies, all of the plus, and the quarterlies on the plus. That's a lot of calling. But I still say that one way to improve our program, I'm nationwide. Once again, I know there's pockets where guys are successful, and I'm tickled to death. I'm glad you are. Is to get back as we once were, with the club 100% behind the class. In a lot of places, that's evidently happening, and I think that's super. I have a club in Florida that has well over 250 members. I had 2 couples out of the club come out and help with my class. That, my friends, is wrong. And we will die. I mean, the activity will definitely decline, in my own opinion, and a lot of others, if across the board we don't get more people in the square dance classes and quit watching that TV and these VCRs and bowling and what have you. There's only one way we can do that. I'm convinced of it. We can change the list till we're blue in the face. We can come up with a classic list. We can issue Mike Master badges. We can do everything in the world. If we don't get people in the classes across the country, I personally think we're in trouble. And I believe this is coming into being right now from a few letters I've received, that some of our very good, I might add, and also our prominent traveling callers that call the biggies, say, my attendance is down at some of my festivals. What's happening? And I said, look down the hill. There ain't nobody coming up. We're going to run out of steam. Our mainstream program, in working with the basic program and mainstream, will correct this, but everybody's got to do it. I personally feel that every caller, or those who pick up a mic and say, I want to be a square dance caller, I am, should teach if he does not feel he's capable to teach, then he ought to try to get himself that way. And that in itself would help us a lot. That's my own personal opinion. Jack?
Let me share with you something that the club that I call for in Connecticut tried very successfully this year. We have a facility where we have a gym that we have our gray area mainstream plus dance in second and fourth Saturdays. But we also have the capability of using a cafeteria in that same hall. And for years and years, we just use it as a cafeteria. We had our refreshment break. We break in the middle of the dance. Break at 9 o'clock for about 20 minutes and have refreshments, and then we go back dancing. I suggested that we, in an effort to try to give the new dancers and dancers who did not wish to go to the plus level or the main hall, if you will, a place to dance. So in September, we started a dual hall situation. We kept our normal schedule in the main hall, and we hired another caller to come in and do the dance in the cafeteria, which is a class-level dance. And class-level dance in New England is your mainstream list right here. Okay. That provided two things for us. It gave our new dancers, not only from our club but from surrounding clubs, a place to go on a Saturday night and dance. Not a lesson, not a workshop, a dance. It also gave people who were in the club and had to stop dancing for whatever reason, trip to the hospital, laid up for a couple of months, a place to come back and get their feet wet, if you will. It also provided a place for people who did not wish to dance, load the boat, relay the deucey, whatever. That's working. It's working very well. We've seen it come through the end of the class period. We're into graduations now, so we have people who have graduated but don't dare go into the main hall, if you will, because they don't know how to do load the boat yet. And we don't want to teach them that yet. So it gives them a place to dance. It also allows them to become part of the club, part of the unit quicker. When we do break at 9 o'clock, we have a place for refreshments still, but everyone has refreshments together. And they feel molded to that club and those people in the club a lot sooner. We have doubled our attendance. We went from 8 to 10 squares to 16 to 20 squares, and by combining both of those halls, because not only have we seen an increase in the class level hall, but we have attracted more people to the main hall because they're bringing their new people, and that's working. So hopefully that'll continue to work. How about some other success stories? Does anybody have anything that they're doing well in their area or that is working in their area that they could share with us here? Good.
Paul Brody from New Jersey. I don't know if this is a success story, but just thinking about what I do in my mainstream groups and plus groups or any group really, from a site calling standpoint, I try, unfortunately not enough, but when I do it, it turns out to be a success. What I try to do is take a call like swing through from, zero box and try to get myself out of the rut of calling boys run after that or centers run. So I move my little checkers around and I know where we are, swing through, and write down on a piece of paper just how many things I can do from that area other than boys run. Cast off 3/4, boys do a U-turn back, girls do a U-turn back, girls fold, just box the net, turn through. There's probably a million things that I haven't even thought about yet. But then the next step after that, of course, is to actually get out there in the real world and try to get that into the brain so that when the situation comes up, you don't automatically call swing through and follow it by boys run. Another thing that I try to do is I try to look at formations, like normal lines, facing in line, zero lines, and say, well, geez, what do I always do? I always call pass through, wheel and deal. So instead of calling pass through, without calling any pass-throughs or things like that, just giving a direction to the dancers, how can I get them into a different formation right from the zero line? So you might say the girls, or it depends on what the situation is, but somebody in that line, two people do a U-turn back, and you're in waves. There was one other thing I wanted to say too, but fooling around with the various, there was one thing I wanted to do. I forget exactly what it is now, but from columns, where you would normally call in the plus program a coordinate from. Just have the girls do a U-turn back, and you're in boxes. Now, many of you may do this, but nobody mentioned it tonight. Your quick little thing, you're already in a different formation, and it kind of surprises the dancers. So I would say get out the checkers and kind of think about what you normally would call from certain situations and see what other possibilities there are from those situations.
Thank you very much. Very good. How do you spell success? I always thought it was S-U-C-E-S-S or something like that. But a guy told me W-O-R-K. Work. I never forgot that. That gentleman is the president, chairman of the board. It can be done. Marshall Flippo's been talked about a lot. Marshall's always been my idol since day one. I still say he's the greatest, one of the greatest with the mic. The man is phenomenal to what he can do with a floor of mainstream plus advanced and C-level dancers all in one group. It doesn't take him more than 4 calls when he starts and everybody's rocking, smooth and going. Don't call anything real fancy, but he sure does call it smooth and moves them around, and he'll catch you with an Allman left and it'll come out of the blue. To me, that's what square dancing is. I'm afraid my biggest group in Florida, by the way, in my workshop series is my advance, the puzzle solvers. Any way from Sunday. It don't make any difference. Left-handed, 3-in-1s, everything. 2-face lines, relay the deucey. John, you ain't gonna like that. But it all depends on what you want to do. All people want to dance. And if you're running programs, you have to do what the bulk of the people want, or you will be in the hall by yourself unless you happen to be in a particular area. So what I really wanted to get in there was how to spell success. And I think that's the way that we can all do a lot better, hopefully. I sure hope my class is up this year. That's what I'm really worried about. I don't know what this has to do with choreography, but 13 years I've been in Florida, I've always had at least 4 beginner classes of anywhere from 6 to 15 squares. This year I have 1 class, 3.5 squares. I'm talking beginners. But I can't kick. My plus workshops up around 18 squares. My dances are anything from 14 to 25, so I'm not, I'm rocking and rolling, but I'm on that high cloud up there, and the earth is trembling underneath me, and I can feel it. That's what worries me. One way or the other, some kind of way. If I have to send my wife out on her bicycle and haul people in, I got to get people into a square dance class some way.
3.5 squares in a beginner's class in New England, we'd be sending out for additional refreshments.
You're kidding me.
No. I would just like to make one comment that I heard, and I'm not at all trying to criticize anybody because I think it's something that just slips out. The comment was made by one of us, and I don't know who it was, and it doesn't matter. As they were talking about this program in comparison to other things, just mainstream. I don't think we need to use the word just mainstream because that makes the mainstream program seem less than other programs, and it's not. It's the crux of the entire picture. So just be careful as we talk about this stuff. It's not just mainstream. It is mainstream. We have another comment.
Question. Don Williams from Michigan again. We get your snowbirds up there in Michigan. Now, when do you normally start your basic classes down there? What month?
Me personally?
Yes.
Somewhere between October the 15th and December the 1st.
Okay. And by the middle of April, how far are you, considering the CALLERLAB list?
The middle of April?
Probably
up around the scoot back, and I'm in a dire sweat because they've already got their bags packed. It's in the van, the motor home, and they're leaving.
Right. And where do they go? They come up to us. Okay? Now, we start in September, and by this time, a lot of them considering graduation. Okay, in our area, we conduct a dance called Stepping Stones. We start lessons in September. By November, we start this. And all the callers in the association put their dates down that they're free, and we have a dance once a week. Okay, and this ends about the last week in April, because that time people are graduating and our attendance goes down, but we've provided a place for them to dance up to this point. And then we start back in May and do it on through the summer, and we hold it at Mainstream. And what's happening, these people are coming up from the south, and they're to where you say, scoot back or whatever, and they're coming to our Stepping Stones, and they're a minority. We try and help them, but they're lost. Now, one of our thoughts is right now that when your people come up, either we've got to start a level for them, or when they come back down to you, you're going to start all over again.
I cannot speak for everyone in Florida, but my speech at graduation times, people, you have been introduced to the basic program of square dancing. If you are going to Michigan, New York, New England, Australia, Hawaii, and they go all over, I said, try to find you a club that is listed as a mainstream club and ask, is it mainstream or is it quarterlies, and is this stepping stone into I really wasn't.
When we start the summer program, which is in the 1st of May, we are complete. That's mainstream, but all of them. All of them mainstream.
Right.
So when these people come up, they're not that far.
That's right. In a lot of cases,
and without some additional lessons or workshops, they aren't going to get the job done.
I have taught recycle on the day I graduated. I have my choice. I can either work this way or just not teach, because they're not going to stay there. These people are all senior adults, better known as senior citizens. They're there from that time. There is no other choice. For those who stay, which is very few, I put them into my mainstream club, and I know what they've done. I know what you're saying, and I know what you're feeling. The people coming out of Florida and out of the South are not properly taught. You're absolutely right.
When we have people start in September and get a snowflake, and they say, we're heading south, at this time, we tell them, this is where you are, right here. So when you go down there and find somebody, tell them where you're at.
I've had them come in.
So would you send a note back up, please?
I'll do that. I'll do that. Hey, thanks a lot. I guess, guys, it's about 11 o'clock. We got started a little late. I presume all questions have been answered and all our problems and opportunities, as some people say, have been corrected. I would ask you to think about one thing, and maybe you all are doing it, but anybody in the room who is not, let's concentrate and work a little harder if we're not doing as much as we can. I'm not doing as much as I can, and I probably will lose numbers on what I'm going to do, because if I don't run that Plus workshop, there's 4 other callers that's got as much experience as I have. Brother, they will, and they'll get the numbers. Last year I got stubborn, said I'm not going to do a Plus. I'm going to teach these people basics, work on basics. I'm paying $75 a night. I'm running it. First night I had 6 couples. Second night I had 1. I decided I wouldn't run it. There's all Plus workshop. I don't know what the answer is, people. Thank you very much for coming, Jack. Thank you for being on the panel.
Thank you all.
And all you people for coming, we'll see you tomorrow. Good night, and God bless you.